Ladies and gentlemen, Borderlands 4 is right around the corner, and with it, you may not know this, but every single Borderlands game that's ever come out, including the Telltale games, including all of the DLC, including all of the spin-offs, are all in the same story, all in the same timeline. And today I wanted to put together a video so that you could know exactly what the story is of all of Borderlands going into Borderlands 4, which is kind of right now the ending of the story. We don't know where it's going to go, but we know where that story starts out as well. This video took me forever to put together, and as I promised at the beginning of the year, I'd be doing more story of more video games. So if you want to see more Borderlands story, or you just enjoyed this video, it helped you out with the background of the Borderlands universe, please hit that like button. This one took me a while, and without further ado, this is the full timeline of Borderlands.
So, you want to hear a story, huh? Well, gather around and let me spin you the tale of our saga etched in power and chaos. You may think it begins with the discovery of those mystical prisons, the vaults, filled with horror yet brimming with untold treasures. But this tale is about more than the vaults. It's about falsehoods, false vaults, false heroes, false gods. Pandora herself is a falsehood, an illusion brought about by the ambition of ancient powers long ago. And it's with them that our story truly begins.
So the Borderlands story begins before Borderlands 1 and before Pandora with a siren, specifically a woman named Nereid, who was a siren. Now, as far as sirens go, we don't know much about them. However, what we do know is there can be 6 of them at an individual time, and when one of them dies, it will pass her powers or even curses off to someone else, normally by their choosing. However, if they don't choose, it'll end up going to someone random. Now, here is what's interesting. One of the new characters within Borderlands 4 goes by the name of Vex, and this character is a siren. So in other words, one of those 6 people throughout the universe. And sirens are typically either hunted, used, abused, or tried to be taken by other people because of their powers. They're used to being hunted, but Vex in turn is a vault hunter, which makes her backstory extremely interesting to me going forward. However, let's move back to the past. So the fact that these sirens were always hunted made it extremely weird when Nereid was approached by a group known as the Eridians, specifically asking for help. So Nereid is approached by the Eridians, and when she looks into them and she finds out that they are from a planet by the name of Necrothefea, which translated to English means first landing, and they have a ton of advanced technologies. The one that you would be most familiar with is the vaults. Now, some of these vaults were made to keep expensive things in and keep other people out, but other vaults were made to trap within. Now, the Eridians had a problem, a little problem you may know as the Destroyer, a beast that would suck up civilizations, planets, and pretty much everything and gain the powers of those it did. So they asked Nereid to figure out a way that they could trap the Destroyer. The way that they decided was to create a trap, a massive trap. You may even recognize the name of it. The trap was a planet that they were creating called Pandora. Now, when creating this, the main material that they used was an expensive material known as Eridium. The worry is that it would draw people in as a way of making money, and then they might find the Destroyer in amongst themselves. However, it was the material needed to trap the Destroyer on the planet. The only problem is they needed bait for the trap. Now, what did the Destroyer want but power? And who had a lot of power but the advanced civilization known as the Eridians? So this is where the powers of Nereid come in. She has a power very similar to the Destroyer. She could essentially interact with any being and suck up its powers, taking it for herself. So she essentially sucked up the entire powers of the billions of Eridians, giving it to herself, making her the bait for the Destroyer. And it essentially worked. The Destroyer came to Pandora, ends up getting trapped inside the vault, and is then stuck on Pandora. The worry, though, is now Nereid has all of this power, and if Nereid dies, she passes that power to someone else who may completely abuse it. So instead, she goes back to the homeland of the Eridians, Necrotafeo, and traps herself inside a vault. After this happened, millennia went by, a massive amount of time, to the point where humanity eventually develops and masters faster than light travel, eventually colonizing 6 different galaxies. Now, these were mainly ruled by mega corporations, but government tried to push their way in, and the mega corporations pushed them out, and eventually only the biggest corporations survived. One of which, however, that was falling behind was a company by the name of Atlas Corporation. Now, they basically needed to throw a Hail Mary, and the way that they did so was by going to other planets and searching for advanced alien technology. They had someone by the name of Typhon Delion, aka the very first Vault Hunter. And so this is what's interesting about Typhon. He was born on Pandora. However, he was born to a family of turd farmers, and he was a natural adventurer, and at the age of 16, his parents passed away. So when they did, he wanted to adventure out and went to a brand new planet known as Promethea. This is a failing Atlas planet. He met several people and eventually got hired by Atlas to go and search through a bunch of Eridian ruins, or specifically 4 Eridian ruins, because they weren't even sure that they actually existed at that point. And he basically completely lucked out and quite literally stumbled upon a vault with a key right at its front door. And instead of just reaping the rewards for himself, he took the key, gave it to Atlas Corporation, who made him tons of money, but also made a fortune for themselves. This established a whole new group and a whole new occupation known as Vault Hunters. So to keep things simple, Atlas takes the tech that they found in the vaults, puts it into their armor and weapons, and now leaps and bounds ahead of all of the other corporation and establishes their own army known as the Crimson Lance. It is at the same time that another corporation known as the Doll Corporation is looking for vaults because Atlas already found one. Where do they look? None other than on Pandora. And guess what? They find one. So the Doll Corporation basically sends a ton of their employees and a ton of their people to Pandora to look for more vaults, but also they find out about the Iridium. So they set up a ton of mines, a ton of quarries, and start mining for Iridium and making really good money off of it. But it's at this time when the planet is waking up, because it's at the end of a 20-year winter, which means all of the flora and fauna are waking up. And as it turns out, Pandora is a really, really dangerous planet. So they tell all of their employees to leave the planet, and those that ended up remaining kind of ended up making the bandits that you end up fighting in Borderlands 1. Now, Atlas, after hearing that the Doll Corporation found a vault on Pandora, they thought that this would be a good place to start looking. So they were set with taming the lands Pandora. Jack was born on a planet named Tantalus. Now, as far as his early life, we don't know much about it. However, at a young age, his father died, having his mother to move to a planet where she could afford for him to live. That planet just so happened to be Pandora. As he grew up, eventually he became a programmer who worked for the Hyperion Corporation. Now, the weird part about Jack is eventually he ends up getting married to a mysterious woman who we've never seen or never heard the name of, but they do have a daughter named Angel, who actually would end up becoming a siren. Now, her ability was called Phase Shift, which would allow her to access and control various pieces of technology. Now, eventually, like what happens to all sirens, they end up being hunted, and specifically on Pandora, the people to do the hunting were the bandits. They showed up and eventually tried to steal or kidnap Angel. However, when they did, they were using a turret, and Angel ends up hacking into the turret and killing the attacking bandit, but also her mother. This is when Jack's ego and megalomaniac kind of took over. At this point, he saw himself as a hero, and his way of becoming a hero was to rid Pandora of all bandits. So from here, he sets a plan into place. He ends up taking his daughter and trapping her within Hyperion's essentially mainframe, giving her access to the entirety of the database of Hyperion, and also being to control all of it as well. This is when he finds out about something on Pandora known known as the False Vault that every 200 years is able to be open. This is the one with the destroyer inside. Now, he sets forth a plan to not only get it open, find the key, and figure out what's inside, he sees this as a part of his plan of getting rid of all of the bandits. So to do this, he needs vault hunters, and specific vault hunters at that. They need to be smart enough to find and open the vault, but not smart enough to know what's inside or how to take advantage of it. And that is when he finds the best possible scenario. Now, each of these vault hunters would hear stories of the false vault, the great vault, if you will, that had all of the gold, all of the riches, and everything their heart could desire. But one by one, each of these heroes ends up getting a feeling to get on Marcus Kincaid's bus, and each of them does so at the exact same time. And while on the bus, each of the vault hunters gets a message from Angel. Instructed by Jack, they are told that if they follow Angel's instructions, which they have no reason to trust, she will be able to get them close or even into the vault. And of course, because they're seeing things, they believe her. Their first instruction is to follow the guidance of Claptrap.
Welcome to Firestone. I am CL4PTP. You may call me by my locally designated name, Claptrap. Before continuing, please accept this Echo communication device and heads-up display, provided free of charge by the Doll Corporation.
After following several locals, they end up clearing out some towns, getting access to vehicles, and eventually, once again, get a message from Angel. This time, she tells them about a local leader known as Sledge. He is the leader of a group of bandits, and she tells you to go kill him and take what he has. And when you do, what he ends up having is an Eridian artifact, which ends up being a piece of the key to the vault. Now, after this, they are contacted by someone by the name of Commandant Steele, someone who we're going to become familiar with, but they are told that this artifact that they retrieved is property of Atlas and they should return it immediately, which they immediately ignore. The second fragment of the key they end up finding with a bandit leader by the name of Crom, who they kill and retrieve. Now, at this point, you're working with someone by the name of Tanis in New Haven. Now, she informs them that the next fragment is most likely located on the Trash Coast, and it is indeed, which they have to kill a very big monster called a Rak Hive in order to get. So they get the third piece and they go back to Tanis, and Tanis tells them the final piece is with someone by the name of Baron Flint in the Salt Flats. So they go to the Salt Flats, kill Baron Flint, and lo and behold, when they do, Commandant Steele gets in contact and says, guess what? Tanis screwed you over. She's been working with us the whole time, and there are only 3 fragments. We already have all 3 of them, and we're going to the vault. Now, this is when Angel gets in contact with the vault hunters and says, hey, listen, if we don't get this vault open now, we got to wait another 200 years. And her, or secretly Jack, doesn't want to wait for that. So they don't know where the vault is, but they do know Tanis is being held in an Atlas prison. So they go looking for information from Tanis, find her, and free her from the prison. Now, I'm going to be honest, this doesn't make very much sense, but she apologizes to the vault hunters and said that she did this and betrayed them because she thought the vault hunters would like it. I don't understand this part of the story, but for some reason, the vault hunters forgive her. Now, Commandant Steele goes ahead and starts opening the vault, and when she does, Eridian guardians come to fruition and start killing everything who's going after the vault. Now, at the same time, our vault hunters are informed by Tanis where the vault is, and we end up showing up and coming face to face with Commandant Steele.
You have failed to listen to Commandant Steele. I've warned you time and again, yet you persist on ignoring my orders. The contents of the vault are rightfully the property of the Atlas Corporation. But you, you belong to me. Yes, the key works. Sergeant, get your team ready to go inside.
So the destroyer ends up showing up in a very big way, but it turns out in this world, the destroyer is actually vulnerable. Now, when we kill him, the destroyer isn't technically dead, just this part of the destroyer is indeed dead. Now, as soon as you beat the destroyer, this is where things get interesting, because basically, Angel tells you you should enjoy your spoils and even sell the vault key back to Tanis, as it is no longer of use to anyone. Now, the Vault Hunters didn't get rich from the vault, but they did get well known, even gaining the respect of someone by the name of Mad Moxie, who, let's be honest, I know you want to get close with as well. While this is going on, Atlas is completely falling apart. After they failed with the vault, they've basically got nothing left to show. The only thing remaining is one of their generals by the name of General Nox, and by the end of the game, with the help of someone by the name of Athena, you end up taking out General Nox, and in turn, destroying all of the arsenal of Atlas, and therefore basically eliminating them, at least, off of the face of Pandora. And with the fall of Atlas, Hyperion moves in, almost as though Jack has planned the entire thing. They put a space station by the name of Helios over Pandora, and guess who's in charge of it? Pretty much Jack. And his plan is to harvest the power of the destroyer. And this is where the events of the pre-sequel take place, which, by the way, pretty much means Borderlands 1.5. So a few months after the vault was opened on Pandora, a massive crack arose on the surface of the planet. And when the crack arose, it also showed a massive amount of iridium, which Hyperion really liked. So they started mining it and used that as a reason to have their kind of spaceship floating above Pandora. Now, the person responsible for overseeing the building of this spaceship was none other than Jack himself. Now, it's at this time that Jack also realizes that there is a vault on the moon of Pandora. So he hires a whole bunch of vault hunters. There are many, many more in this game, some of which include a claptrap, another which includes a doppelganger of handsome Jack himself. So they are hired to find and crack into the vault on the moon. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the pre-sequel story is overly confusing for what the story is, so I'm gonna make this one really, really short. When the Vault Hunters first go to Helios, Helios has been taken over by the Lost Legion. The Lost Legion is led by someone by the name of Zarpedon. So basically, Zarpedon wants to destroy the moon. The reason being, Zarpedon has seen the future, and they know that if Jack gets their hands or sees what's within the vault, he will go mad and essentially cause the deaths of millions. So Zarpedon starts using Helios's eye to start blasting the moon just to try to completely destroy it. All the while, the Vault Hunters and Jack try to stop them, and eventually they do exactly that after creating an army of robots. And this is what we hear in the final confrontation between Jack and Zarpedon.
Doesn't matter what happens today. Your fall is coming.
Yeah, cool. Where's the vault?
Hidden beneath a tangle of chemical filth. I've seen what lies inside it. You can't...
Wait. You've seen inside it? The vault's open?
You must turn back. The power within the vault would trigger a chain of events.
The vault's already open, huh? Cool. Now let's deal with that laser core.
And when they end up making their way to the Eye of Helios, they end up finding out how it works, and it turns out that it is created from the Eye of the Destroyer, which is pretty cool, but really doesn't have too much to do with the rest of the story. Now, when they go to deactivate it to stop the moon from being destroyed, it turns out Roland and Lilith have actually triggered things in a way which it creates a singularity and destroys the Eye of Helios, essentially ruining Jack's work. He goes into a rage and needs to get in that vault even more. So they get to the vault. It is protected by the Sentinel. They defeat the Sentinel and get inside. All that is inside is a glyph. a glyph that displays the future. However, before Jack could see too much, Lilith ends up getting inside the vault, punching and destroying the glyph, scarring Jack forever. In a pure fit of rage, he ends up declaring war on every single bandit on Pandora and is also scarred for life. And after returning to Helios, he ends up getting in a confrontation with the CEO of Hyperion, killing him and declaring himself Handsome Jack, the new CEO of Hyperion. So at this point, Handsome Jack has a little bit of a different plan, which we'll get to in a minute. But there are still vault hunters going across Pandora trying to find vaults, and guess who's trying to stop them? None other than Handsome Jack. Now, the four main vault hunters within Borderlands 2 all get aboard this maglev train in the hunt for the vault when this happens.
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not. Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
Now, the Vault Hunters are woken up in an area called the Windshear Waste and are greeted by a character by the name, once again, of Claptrap, who says that he's finally going to be able to get off of this glacier because the Vault Hunters are here. And he does. The weird part is when they're given their Echo device, they're contacted by Angel, which again is Jack's daughter, and saying that they have survived this crash for a reason and she is going to help them. But what's weird is last time we were in contact with Angel in Borderlands 1, well, Angel was working for Jack, and Jack just tried to kill us. So what is going on here? Now, eventually they need to get to Sanctuary, and when they do, they're in contact with Roland, who tells them how to get inside. Now, when they eventually get to Sanctuary, they end up finding out that Roland has gone missing through Angel. And we don't know why, we don't know where, but that is the next thing that we need to figure out. So Roland was taken away by the Bloodshot gang as there's a bounty on his head by Handsome Jack. Now, as we go to save him, he is then taken in, but we end up stopping him, and then through Roland, we get to find out what Handsome Jack's actual plan is.
Now, we thought Jack wanted to open a vault and use its power to wipe us off Pandora, but thanks to some intel I stole from a Hyperion convoy, I found out we were wrong.
What?
He's not gonna open a vault. He's going to control it.
I'll just go ahead and repeat myself. What?
The vault Jack's looking for isn't an alien prison or a cache of weapons. It's a living thing. An ancient Eridian warrior, powerful enough to destroy all life on Pandora. Whoever awakens it gets to control it.
So now the plan is to wake the warrior before Jack does, but Jack already has the key. You can see the conundrum. So we are told that the key is on a train. Now we stop said train, but what is on the train is not a key. It is a power core. Now we take that power core and use it to power up Sanctuary, which has the power of flight, and we are trying to protect it. But as it turns out, Angel double-crossed us, was working with Handsome Jack, and now has control of Sanctuary, and Handsome Jack is trying to destroy it. Now, thanks to some quick thinking by Lilith, Lilith is able to teleport Sanctuary out of there, and eventually we are able to allow Sanctuary to take flight in a completely different region. Now, once we're in that region, Angel once again reaches out to us and says, I am sorry for double-crossing you. I had to. I am trying to help you. I am trying to stop Handsome Jack. Now, once we get back to Sanctuary, we're once again in contact with Roland and Lilith, and that's when Angel appears. And specifically, Roland and Lilith do not want to trust Angel, but Angel says that she has the vault key, and she is hidden and housed within a Hyperion bunker. Now, Angel says that she will help the Vault Hunters except for one thing. When they eventually get into her quarters, the only person that isn't allowed to enter is Lilith. We don't know why as of yet. So our Vault Hunters jump through a million hoops in order to break into the facility, but when they eventually do, they find out about the Vault Key. Basically, the way that the Vault Key works is it needs to be powered by something other than Iridium, a catalyst. And that catalyst is actually Angel. And this is when Angel kind of reveals everything about her being held captive by her father, who is Jack. And basically, Angel asks the Vault Hunters to kill her, because in order to stop Jack, she needs to die to be stopped as the catalyst for the Vault Key. And well, even though Handsome Jack tries to stop them, you end up being able to stop her. And in her final dying words, this is what she has to say about her father. Now, for some reason, Tannis ends up getting Angel's powers. Why, I don't know, and it's never really explained, but she swears to use her powers for good. Now, going back inside the facility, we start to talk about what we're going to do now that we have the Vault Key, how we're going to eliminate Jack. And well, when we do, Jack ends up teleporting in behind Roland, shooting him in the chest, killing him, and then when Lilith goes into a rage and tries taking out Jack, he slaps a control collar around her neck, making it so she can no longer use her powers to take out Jack. As this is happening, he ends up taking Lilith, teleporting out of there, but Lilith is able to do one last thing without the control collar, and that is teleport you and your fellow Vault Hunters out of there. The only thing left that we can do is find the Warrior's Vault and get there to stop Handsome Jack. Now, eventually we end up finding out where it is, and when we get there, Lilith is there charging the key. Hence why Angel told Lilith not to go, because he didn't want Handsome Jack to get his hands on a siren. Now, Handsome Jack explains why he is doing this, how he's trying to get revenge for his wife, for his daughter, and to create a world without bandits and to use the warrior to do so. Now, you try to stop and fight Handsome Jack, but before the end of it, he is brutally wounded, but he is able to push the vault key in and open the vault, letting the warrior free. Now, I wish there was more of a crescendo to this, but the Vault Hunters just basically fight the warrior, kill the warrior, and then there's one less thing to do. Completely stop Jack altogether. We've stopped his plan, now we just need to stop him.
This is the end, Vault Hunter. Either you kill Jack, or I'll kill him for you. What's it gonna be?
But there was one last thing. When Lilith went to go interact with the key after Handsome Jack was killed, we end up finding out the key had one other power, and that was the fact that it actually had a map to many other worlds, all of which had vaults on them, essentially giving the Vault Hunters an ultimate guide, or simply a map to thousands of vaults. Now, the tales from the Borderlands games are canon within the overall story of Borderlands. However, not much of it actually has an overall outcome on the story. However, I'm going to tell you the parts that do, but I will say this. Tales from the Borderlands is a really good game with a really good story that you should check out, but here's the parts that actually matter. The story takes place about a year after the death of Handsome Jack. It follows two characters predominantly by the name of Reese and Fiona. We'll come back to them later. And basically, after the death of Handsome Jack, everyone on Helios is fighting for that leadership role of Hyperion. And eventually, someone by the name of Vasquez ends up getting it. However, eventually, this is not going to matter whatsoever, because later on in this story, the most important thing of all of it is they end up accidentally destroying Helios, crashing it into Pandora, essentially destroying Hyperion once and for all. Now, as a kind of side plot in this story, all the Vault Hunters end up meeting up with Athena. Now, Athena was one of the Vault Hunters that helped out Handsome Jack, and they essentially hold a trial for her, are about to kill her, when the Watcher shows up and essentially says, no, you cannot kill her. You're going to need all of the Vault Hunters. A war is coming. We'll get to that part. Now, the reason why I say most of the rest of this story doesn't matter for the overall story of Borderlands is because at the end of this story, they end up opening the Vault of the Traveler. Now, when they do, the plan is that Reese is going to move forward and try to actually bring back Atlas Corporation since Hyperion has fallen, whereas Fiona is going to continue and try to be a Vault Hunter. However, the reason why I say none of this matters is because when they end up opening what's inside of the vault, both of them just disappear. And to this day, we don't know what happens to them. Remember how we talked about the world's first Vault Hunter, Typhon Delion? Well, this is where things go full circle. You see, after being hired to go look through many worlds and many galaxies for vaults, he kind of lost his touch, and when he did, he ended up going back to Pandora, and no longer having purpose, what he ended up finding was a wife. He met her in Firestone, and she went by the name of Aleda Calypso. And just like Typhon, she loved adventure, and they started going on adventures together and having these discussions, and they started sharing their bucket list, and both of them had the same thing. Both of them wanted to go to the homeland of the Eridians, which was Necrotafeo. Now, they didn't know whether this was just an old wives' tale or a real thing, but having the luck of the very first Vault Hunter, they actually ended up stumbling upon it and finding out all of the mysteries of the Eridians. Basically, they found out the secrets of the universe, and they thought, well, we could either use this for power or we could protect it so someone doesn't abuse this kind of power. And they ended up spending the rest of their lives there, to the point where they even had their own kids. Now, what's interesting is that they ended up having conjoined twins, a male and a female. But the weird part is that they were sirens. Now, we talked earlier and we said sirens could only be female, but lo and behold, because they were conjoined twins, it changed the rules. Now, they ended up actually separating the two twins, but when they did, the male actually started dying because that's the way that sirens worked. However, the female actually had the power to be able to share powers between the two of them, meaning their link of conjoined twins went further than just the conjoinedness. It went into their powers that they had as a siren as well. Now, the twins went by the name of Tyreen and Troy, and at one point, when Tyreen was a child, she actually ended up killing her mother, which caused a massive wedge between the entire family. But as a father, Typhon remained there with the twins, and all he could do was tell them stories, and the stories he told them were about Pandora. Now, after hearing the stories of Pandora for 21 years and essentially thinking they were the most powerful people in the universe, they thought it was their destiny to leave the planet Necrotafeo and go to Pandora to open the Great Vault. Now, for 3 years, they studied the ways of Pandora, and specifically the ways of the bandit, and upon getting there, they essentially established their own cult, known as the Children of the Vault. Now, their goal was essentially to find the vault map that the Vault Hunters found at the end of Borderlands 2. However, their arrival onto Pandora starts to come up on Lilith's radar, and Lilith can see the powers that these two have, and also sees what they are trying to do and what they are trying to accomplish. So she realizes she can't stop this alone. She needs help. So she puts out a message and asks for any aspiring Vault Hunters to come and help. So Borderlands 3 is all about the Calypsos, who are, by the way, the twins who took their mother's last name. That's where the Calypsos come from, looking for the vault map. Now, fortunately, we have the help of Lilith, who knows the location of the vault map. So we go get the vault map and she tries to power it up. Now, oddly, it only shows us the location of one vault, which is on the planet by the name of Prometheus. And as we go to get there, well, we get interrupted by the Calypsos. And since Tyreen has the ability to siphon someone's powers, she gets a hold of Lilith and starts taking all of her powers. And when she's about to kill Lilith, Troy actually stops her. Now, from here, she's able to take some of this power and empower her brother because, as she explains here, her brother is just a leech. They were born stuck together. Their father cut them apart. We already talked about that whole backstory. But the weird part about this whole thing is they broadcast it to the Children of the Vault.
What is up, brothers and sisters? God Queen Tyreen coming to you live. We got something real special for you today. Your #1 most requested murder. It's the great heretic herself, the Firehawk. Look who got plucked. Smile.
So Lilith is left for dead. However, the Vault Hunters manage to get back and save her just in the nick of time. Now, they then go to Promethea to try to get ahead of the twins. When they get there, they end up getting their hands on a piece of computer, and this piece of computer actually houses Reese. Reese, one of the main characters from Tales of a Borderland, and he explains to them that to get into the vault on Promethea, you need a part of the key that can be found on a planet called Athenas. So when we end up getting to Athenas, we end up meeting up with a character by the name of Maya and her apprentice by the name of Ava. Now Maya is a siren, and we end up using Eridian to boost her powers and get inside an area which of course houses one of the vault key fragments. And we go back to Sanctuary 3, which by the way is just kind of like our spaceship, and we once again talk to Reese. He tells us about an asteroid mounted laser that's being pointed at Atlas HQ. So it appears as though he did fulfill his dream of becoming the head of Atlas, and Atlas is homed on Promethea, hence all of this kind of coming together in one. Now we then go and stop the asteroid mounted laser and get the next key fragment. The final key fragment is held by Reese, and although he admits this spurred a bunch of Atlas's new technology, he says that as long as the Vault Hunters help him, he is willing to part with it, and he does, and he even tells them the location of the next vault, which is right under the Promethea city. So they go there, they go to the vault, open it up, and the vault monster comes out, known as the Rampager. Now they end up swiftly taking out the Rampager, getting inside the vault, and essentially find out that the next vault is located on Eden 6, which is one of the moons of Eden. We'll come back to this, but as they do this and find out the location of the next vault, guess who shows up?
No! What are you doing?
Taking what's ours. See, the monsters don't protect the power of the vaults. They are the power of the vaults.
And now we realize what they're actually going for. They're going to extract the powers of these crazy, ridiculous vault monsters and take it for themselves. And after sharing some of the power with her brother, she ends up grabbing Ava, which causes Maya to grab Troy. But she doesn't realize Troy's ability is to suck her powers away. And this is what ends up happening.
Be ready.
No!
So with his newfound abilities, both of them immediately go to Eden 6 to get to the next vault. However, when our Vault Hunters get aboard Sanctuary, they are told and contacted by a Jacobs from the Jacobs Company, who is housed on Eden 6, saying that the children of the vault are already there and asks for their help. So they go to Eden 6. So eventually, after once again going and getting a bunch of key fragments, we open the vault on Eden 6. Now, when we kill the vault monster, Tanis shows up and has some sort of technology to suck the life force out of the monster so that Tyreen can't take it from them. However, after going into the vault, looting out the vault, well, guess what? They phase lock Tanis and teleport her back to the children of the vault. Now the COV plan on murdering her, but this is when she reveals that she has received Angel's powers, breaks out, and is now known as a siren. Now it's at this time that the Calypso twins essentially reveal their plan. They shoot a giant laser empowered by Eridian at the moon of Pandora. Why? Because that moon is the vault key to the Great Vault, which of course they are trying to get the powers from the Destroyer. So the Vault Hunters make their way to the Great Vault, where they start to fight Troy and Tyreen, and very quickly actually manage to take him down. Now it is at this time that it is revealed that Maya has now given her powers to Ava. And we don't know exactly what those powers are as of yet, but at the same time, Tyreen ends up leeching the rest of the powers away from Troy, her brother. And when she does, she comes back to life and seemingly buries the Vault Hunter. Now luckily, Ava knows how to use Maya's powers and protects the Vault Hunters, and this is revealed just after Tyreen escapes. Now at this time it is heard on a nearby echo device that Typhon, the very first Vault Hunter and the father of the Calypso twins, is telling the Vault Hunters to come to Necrotafeo as they need to stop the twins, or I guess now specifically Tyreen. Now Typhon essentially tells them about the machine, a mechanism that they can use to seal the Vault of Pandora. And to do so, they need 4 vault keys. Now, the previous event, they already have 3 vault keys. And the 4th vault key is actually in the headstone of the Calypso's mother and Typhon's wife. So they get it and then power the mechanism. But just as they're powering it up, Tyreen shows up, and Typhon, her father, tries to stop her. However, with the grenade in hand, Tyreen is able to send the blast back the other way, killing her father. And now with this done, she feels as though she has stopped them from sealing the vaults of Pandora, and nothing is now stopping her from becoming a god. Now the only thing left to do is stop Tyreen, but the Vault Hunters are too late. When they get there, the vault has been opened with the power of the moon, and Tyreen has already been in contact with the Destroyer that for the first time in thousands of years is no longer bound by the vault, but is completely unhinged. And when Tyreen gets in contact, well, let's just say she becomes a Destroyer. Now, I don't necessarily like this part of the story, but the Destroyer turns out, combined with Tyreen, isn't fully invulnerable. We don't know why, because it's her mortal form, because it's a combination of the two, but they end up beating Tyreen the Destroyer. And when they do, a mass amount of stored up energy from Tyreen is released into the universe, including the powers of Lilith. Laying on the ground is the key to the Great Vault. Now they go inside the vault, take what's inside, but then they start to realize that the vault has just started opening, and when it fully opens, the entirety of Pandora is going to be destroyed, and really there's nothing they can do about it. Millions and millions will die. However, Lilith has an idea, a way to stop this from happening.
What does Lilith think she's doing? Closing the Great Vault. She's saving Pandora.
That could kill her!
She knows. She's the Firehawk.
With this, thanks to Lilith, the Great Vault is sealed, holding Pandora together, saving millions. Lilith, sacrificing herself, has now saved everyone, and for the first time in hundreds, if not thousands, if not millennia, Pandora is actually able to go into a time of peace. Now, the new Tales from Borderlands takes place about a year after Lilith disappears into the moon, and it takes place on the planet of Promethea, the home of Atlas. Now, this story tells a story of Anu and Octavia. Now, this overall story does not have a very large impact on the overall story of Borderlands whatsoever. I'm just putting these characters out there in case they somehow come forth within Borderlands 4. But by the end of this story, our characters throughout this, who include Anna and Octavia, found a company alongside Reese that is supposed to heal these mega corporations from around the universes from the inside out. That is essentially it. Which by the end of the game, Fiona also gets in contact with them and lets them know that the shard throughout this story that can heal or kill people is embedded inside of Timmy, and Timmy is headed for something known as the Gladius Nebula. So of course we don't know the whole story of Borderlands 4, but here is the backdrop, and in fact we know it ties into the overall story, but what we know is it takes place in an area called Kairos. Now in Kairos, it is believed that there is more wealth and more secrets hidden than anywhere else in the universe, specifically the secret to immortality. Now why has no one gone to this planet? Well, someone by the name of the Timekeeper, the main villain within the game, has shrouded this place for a long period of time. And when anyone is born or goes in the area of Kairos, he implants them with what he calls a bolt, basically a mechanism that can control and see anything that that person or Vault Hunter does. And assumably, this is so that if anyone stumbles across the vault or comes in contact with whatever would cause immortality, he would be the one and the first person to know. So why do Vault Hunters now know about Kairos? That is the big question. Well, turns out when Lilith went into the moon, she transported it, and it smashed Elpis, the moon of Pandora, through the veil of Kairos, revealing it to everyone. Now there is another bad guy in another faction that we know about known as the Rippers. Now they are led by someone by the name of Callus. Now basically when the veil was broken, she immediately ripped out her bolt and started to do the same for a bunch of other bandits, which means that the Timekeeper can't control or see what those people are doing. So this is the entirety of the Borderlands story up until now, and what we are left with going into Borderlands 4 is a brand new area known as Kairos, who is controlled by the Timekeeper, who seemingly has control of the vaults there, which is leading to his immortality. Now he has control of most of the people within the area, but some are rising up, including some Vault Hunters who have newly found this planet after Lilith essentially has broken the veil of Kairos with the moon of Pandora. Now what happens next, what characters return from Pandora, we are going to have to wait and see. But this is the entirety, the full timeline of the Borderlands story so far. Please, if you enjoyed, I would love it if you'd hit the like button. This is the video I put the most effort into for a while. I have no idea how it'll do. So if you could hit the like button, maybe even subscribe if you like video game story, I would be really appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy, or if you're already playing, are enjoying Borderlands 4. Until next time.